Hello and welcome to another video. Today is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to walk you through some of the activities that I've been up to in terms of research and using ChatGTP to help me with the analysis. A lot of the videos you will find online currently really just show contrived data, or maybe it's financial data, which is great if that's what you need. However, here at the University of Memphis, I often am doing RFID-based research, barcode research, and the reality is that some of the other examples don't tell me a whole lot about how helpful ChatGTP will be or not be for my work. And so I decided to give it a shot while I do some analysis today, because if I didn't use this or if it didn't work out, I was going to have to actually custom code a series of, call them filters if you want, but a way to process the data, because I played with Excel for a little while and was not able to come up with a solution that was going to work there. And so, yeah, that's the process, and that's what we're going to watch here. And so one of the things that's nice about ChatGTP, and I'm sure some of the other LLMs do this as well, I just happen to already have the account here and whatnot, is that I can drop a file into it. And then, as we all know, it's able to go out and process that on prompts from normal conversation versus something that is very query specific, or SQL or R or one of the other languages out there. What I've done is loaded in some data that was collected by one of my RFID readers. I have 1,500 RFID tags on a board, and you can see that here. And I'm trying to make sure I read all of them, or pretty close to all of them. What I'm trying to do is determine then, after I've read them, when does the read process really bog down in terms of finding new tags. The reader is continuing to read the tags, but it's reading the same tags over and over. And really what I care about is the cumulative count of unique tags over time, for some different configurations, to figure out which is going to be the best configuration. And then I can use that later on to determine whether or not the interference that I'm planning to introduce into the test scenario is really creating a difference, or whether it is actually not creating a difference in that read rate. Now, so far, I've left the video running at real time, so you can see about how fast ChatGTP will respond to some of these queries. The files, as you may notice on the right side of the screen, they're 60,000 to 80,000 records in the file, so it's not a simple data set, but it's only got really two columns that it's caring about, the EPC ID and the time. Maybe a third column of count, depending on which data set I'm loading. And so this is reasonably responsive. I'm surprised. I kind of thought it would be worse. I expected using real data versus contrived data would result in a result that was not maybe peppy, but as responsive as this is shown to be. And so what I've been doing here is trying to find a happy representation of the data, something that I'm happy with and willing to move forward with, because eventually I'm going to be using these plots as part of a presentation at RFID Journal Live. And so if you end up being down there and you've seen this video, you'll know how I generated the plots. Anyway, different ways to look at the data, obviously. Total counts, looking at number of EPCs detected, and EPC is the RFID tag. I don't want to get into the technical on the RFID side, but suffice it to say that the FCC_15, the FCC_B are two different configurations for my reader, and then the S2 is a third iteration that's tying back into the 15 and the B. And so the unique EPC detected plots are not bad. It'd be nice if they're a little smoother. I played with the smoothing some, and to be honest, I'm not thrilled with ChatGTP's method of doing its smoothing. That might be a an aesthetic issue more than a technical issue, to be honest, and I'm fine with that. It's not bad. It's just I wish it did it a little bit differently. It seems to want to do certain things that I am trying to not have it do. I'm going to have to play more with how it handles the export of the plot data. I did try exporting this plot or one of these plots at some point, and it's going to take a bit of work to get it into a format that Excel is happy with, where I can basically use Excel to regenerate this plot and tweak it to my heart's content. There is probably some logic that ChatGPT is assuming on what it exports. And again, I didn't try to necessarily do all the iterations. This was my first foray into using ChatGPT for more than anything than trying to help me figure out small snippets of code or errors that I'm seeing when I do Java programming, for example. So overall, not bad. It is nice that you can go back and do things like say, hey, add back in or remove from, or just zoom in, zoom out, and not have to mess with the graph as much as you do in Excel sometimes. And so overall, I would say that I plan to use ChatGPT more in the future for some of my analysis work. I think with some practice, as with any tool, I will get better at pulling and extracting what I want out of it from it. I think really the only other problem I had with it was some of the data looked very stair-step chunky, but that might have actually been because of the way the data was being collected and represented. I don't necessarily know if I had milliseconds included in some of the data, and so if it was at a 1 second rate and there was nothing in between, it would explain some of the chunkiness. And so anyway, that's all I have for now. As always, thanks for watching. Have a good day.